Hey guys, this is Whyt Manga, and I'm here with a video clearing things up. Now, before I go into the video, I'd just like to say I'm the creator of Apple Black. You can get Apple Black, the first 3 chapters free online. Near 4, because the 4th chapter is also online, but it's not, the full pages are not there. But to get the first 9 complete chapters, all in Volume 1, I'll leave a link to purchase Volume 1 in the About section below. You can also purchase the book on Amazon, or there's a link on the Saturday AM website where you can, purchase the book there as well. But here I'm with a video just clearing things up, trying to explain to people why I believe, and watching this video, you just need to keep in mind that it's my opinion. This is my opinion. It's not whether I guess we can have a discussion. You can let me know what you think in the comments. But I believe that comics is the same thing with manga. And I know in Korea they have I think in Korea they have another name, or in the Philippines, I can't remember right now, where it's like Manhwa or something like that. Also the same thing. Okay, now you're going, oh, why manga? Why is comics and Manhwa the same thing? Well, a lot of people say that, oh, manga is read from right to left. That's the reading orientation. Manga is black and white, or in grayscale, or black, white, and just tones. Some say manga is what else? Read from right to left, black and white. For the most part, that's the main thing they have, and they don't have anything else. So, and manga has a certain style, that anime style, the big eye, little nose kind of thing. And here's my response to that. First off, being read from right to left is a reading orientation. Manga is comics made in Japan. And that definition right there, even though I wouldn't say that's the end of the end of the definition, but that definition right there kind of leads to a lot of inconsistencies and misinterpretations and stuff like that. But that's kind of correct. Manga is comics made in Japan, right? And in Japan, the reading orientation is something they have to follow. You can't have a comic that is read from left to right in Japan when they don't read left to right. It's going to confuse people. So if a comic or anything or a novel is made in Japan, it's going to be read from right to left. I mean, the novels read from right to left. What are those? Do they have different names? No, they're still novels. What else you have? You got it's black and white. There's some black and white comics made here in the West. There's some black and white comics made here. Period. They're black and white. And that's the category that I'll probably put Apple Black in, is black and white, or black and white with tones, or black and white with grayscale. What else they got? Oh, the style. Everybody has a style. Now in Japan, it's a style that is unique to them, because one of the things with manga is that they really, not just manga but comics, every comic, they input their culture in it. So if you see the comics made here in the West, you see the Western culture and tradition, whatever, put into the comics. It makes sense. It makes sense for a Japanese comic to have a story about ancient Japan and samurais and stuff like that. And it really doesn't matter. And you can, even if you're in the West, you can make a comic about Japan. My only advice is for you to kind of know what you're writing, kind of know what you write. So if you're gonna make a story about ancient Japan, and even if it's a comic, or and you're in the West, or even if you're in Japan and you're making a manga, if there's a difference, you still need to know what you're writing. Even if the story is going to be some whack story where you're kind of rewriting history or something like that, you still kind of need to know what you're rewriting. It's kind of like knowing the bones before you break them. I don't know if you get that, but for instance, there's a comic, an anime, manga, whatever, called Gintama, and it's about ancient Japan, but they twisted history and said that aliens came. It's one of the funniest animes that I've ever watched. I believe it is the funniest thing on the planet when it comes to anime, comics, manga. But 9 times out of 10, the creator knows what they're knows the rules you're breaking. You got to know the rules before you break them. I think that's a better, it's a, it's a better, what's that word? Freaking, I don't know, you get it. All these things are just styles. The style is just predominant in manga, and even then, all the styles in manga and anime, they're not exactly the same. I mean, yeah, there's some similarities, but that's just something that's just predominant in Japan, or in Korea, or in the Philippines, or whatever. Big eyes and stuff like that, but not all of them. Seinen mangas are more realistic. The drawings are way more realistic, just as realistic as, say, a comic. Hell, sometimes even more. And okay, and what else? Okay, black and white. The comics, there are comics in the West that are black and white. There. So if my comeback would be, so if I made a comic, if I made a colored comic that was, and I'm making this in Japan, a colored comic that was a superhero. Most comics here are superhero comics, right? That, I mean, it's just being creative and doing whatever you want. Not all the comics here are superhero comics, right? So there's some One Punch Man's a superhero comic, and that's made in Japan, and that's it's a Japanese Shonen Jump kind of thing. So Shonen manga, that's like a genre within manga where it's like for boys and stuff like that. But it's still under comics. It's just basically action, adventure, comedy comics. That's what, to me, that's what shonen manga. That's what equates shonen manga. And so there's superhero comics in Japan. So if I made a superhero comic in Japan that was colored, that was made, right to left, and it looked like it was straight out of Marvel, and a bunch of people worked on it and stuff like that. What? That's not it's not manga. Well, it's made in Japan. You know what I mean? It's just style. I think comics and manga, they're all the same thing. It just comes down to style. Style is the main difference. If you look at when someone says style could be lots of things. It could be the way you color. It could be the way you tone, the way you draw trees, the way you draw fire, the way you draw fire on paper with black and white, the way you draw fire with color, the way you do anything, the way you draw eyes, noses, mouth, the way you write, the way you capture a scene, the way you do almost anything creatively. And some styles can be influenced or get inspiration from other styles. And when I say styles in arts, it's not just in the confines of comics and art. It also falls into music and stuff like that. So when you listen to Lady Gaga and you hear some maybe Madonna, it's just styles getting inspired by styles. Styles are usually not the same thing. But I guess I'll make another video when I'll make another video that talks about rip-offs, and I think rip-offs are just something that you gain inspiration from, but you're just too close to it. Sometimes if you do it purposely, then it's a clear rip-off, but sometimes it's either coincidence or just not paying too much attention. But I'll go into more detail with that. But it's I'm just talking about comics and manga, why I think they're the same thing. So if someone came here, if somebody came to Japan, I just gave the example of someone going to Japan and making a Marvel comic, a straight up Marvel comic. Does that make it manga? Yes, of course it makes it manga, because it's the same thing. It's been manga. Marvel Comics is manga. That's the way I see it. Again, this is my opinion. I like to see what you guys think, and you can leave your thoughts and your comments down below. The last thing, another point people bring up is that, for it to be manga, a Japanese person has to make it. Bull. There's some Japanese people that make American comics here in the West. So, that's not, it's comics, but it's not manga here because it's made here. It doesn't make sense. Just because, and me calling Apple Black my comic or manga or a comic or manhwa or whatever, to me, I can use any term I want, because at the end of the day, it's the same thing. If you go to Wikipedia and you say, what's manga? Manga is comics made in Japan, and that's just the difference. That's what they call comics in Japan. Not because there's a huge difference. The real difference is the difference in style. But if you think about it, every comic has a difference in style. Every artist has a different style. Even those inspired by others. They all have a difference in style. No matter how small it is, there is a difference. At the end of the day, it is all the same. The left and right thing is just a reading orientation. If I made a comic, which I am, Apple Black here in the West, it will be it is left to right. It's read left to right, but it has all the other, typical manga traits, being black and white and having that, manga anime style. Not all through, but here and there. But the way I tone and the way I add certain things, certain elements to my comic are. I don't even know if they are manga or comic. They're just me. It's just a style, right? For example, there are little things here and there in my comic. The way I draw trees, the way I draw the human anatomy is different from everybody else. There will be some similarities facially, but everything else is kind of more me than anything else. Even the way I design my buildings, which is, most of these things are, they're not foolproof. There's still a couple things that I want to improve on and I want to be better at. But I get influence from a lot of things. I get influence from movies and music and other mangas, other manga styled things, other comic stuff, other just other things in general. One of the things I try is the way I draw sound effects may be similar to some manga styled comics. I guess maybe you can use that, manga styled, help differentiate. But I don't use Japanese sound effects because I'm not in Japan and the comic's not going to be read in Japan. And since the comic is published in America, I've chosen to publish it from left to right. Now, there are comics here that are published here in America or here in the West that are read left to right, right to left. But if you're going to have my advice to people who use that orientation, they should just keep in mind why that orientation is used. You can still go and use that orientation to give that feel like the comic was made in Japan, even though it isn't. But I'm not trying to tell people how to create their comics. I'm just, in a way, giving my thoughts and telling you what I think. And if you are going to, go right to left, I'm not stopping you, but I'm just trying to let you know why their comics are read from right to left, why they have that reading orientation. If people read stuff in Japanese from left to right, if novels were read left to right, then manga would be left to right 9 times out of 10. So if you want to go with this different reading orientation, keep in mind that you may confuse a regular just a common Western reader who's just picking a book up for the first time, if it's going to be published here, because who are you selling this book to? You want to sell it to as many people as possible. You want to let a lot of people know about your work, so you don't want to confuse someone who may not read any manga at all. Maybe they're just in comics, and you also want to, at least for me, my comic, I want to convert people as well. Let them see the other side of the spectrum and stuff like that. So you can still use whatever reading orientation you want, but I just want to let you know why the orientation is used. It all depends on where the comic is being published. That is all. So for sound effects like this, the style where I'm, it's kind of similar to like Japanese sound effects, but it's not. It's just really an exclamation mark, and because I think sometimes sound effects sound silly. So I use exclamation marks, just and the size of the exclamation mark kind of lets the reader, for me, in my style, lets the reader know how loud maybe the action is, right? And they can kind of use their own imagination to figure out how it sounds. And everybody will have the different imagination. So to me, it's just like them figuring out the sound themselves, rather than me throwing out a kapow that sounds ridiculous. Or sometimes I will use like regular sound effects where I'll use actual words, and maybe words that may not mean anything, or sometimes words that may mean something, but it's very rare. Most of the time, if you read my comic, for the most part, you're gonna see a lot of exclamation marks. Another thing with my style, it would be, me using Sakura microns and G pens and a couple other things here and there. there's some people who use Sharpies, but maybe I may use a Sharpie, but sometimes I'll use brushes with actual ink to fill in maybe black spots and things like that, where I will use the microns to draw straight lines, draw the backgrounds, the panels, and stuff like that. You use different, sizes, maybe 08 for the panels, and 005 or 01 for like the backgrounds, and then I'll use the G pen with the Leader 6 ink to draw, the bubbles, draw in the characters, and then I'll use a brush with the same Leader 6 ink or a Sharpie to fill in the spots. Most times I use a brush. I rarely use a Sharpie. If I rather just leave the spot open and scan in and fill in the spots with a computer using Manga Studio, because the final process for me will be to use Manga Studio to fill in the tones and edit the page and put in the text, and that's it. So basically my comic is it's mixed media. It's both digital and traditional at the same time, using all these tools in the traditional. So that in itself is a style that I don't, not many people utilize. It's mine. That's just an example of, a style when it comes to technique creating your art. So because it's not just pages, you can use it to create, use the same thing to do posters. Just that sometimes when I'm doing posters, I may work digitally and color digitally, do the same inking process, then scan in and color digitally, or I may not, I might just use copy markers and color traditionally. If you check out my DeviantArt, you see a lot of different styles here and there. And coloring digitally, even coloring traditionally, there's still things I want to learn and that I can improve on. So, even as an artist, I think every artist has that, improve gauge, I guess. You haven't really reached your peak, and you're still improving. So yeah, my style is also, there are lots of things even more than what I've said that make my style different. And most of the comics, why they're black and white is they're cheaper. Black and white comics are cheaper to make. Colored comics are not. It is that simple. So manga having all these stories that have like a gazillion chapters, at least the Japanese creators, most of their style have the millions of chapters, right? So it is cheaper to print. That's all that is. And there are black and white comics here that go through the same thing, and they print black and white because it is cheap. With the notion about, you have to be Japanese to make it, that's also bull. Another example I'll say is there's a comic People Choose, a black guy that made it. Boom, right there. So maybe they're saying, it's a black guy, it's Felipe Smith that made People Choose, and that's a manga published in Japan. So what, and with all that, is just it's not about where you're from. It's just you just making a comic. That's all this is. A lot of people like to make things more complicated than it actually is, or some people just like to. They don't think comics are cool and just want to differentiate it and make manga their own little cult thing. It's the same thing. And again, I've said this throughout this video, but it's my opinion, and that's just it. I believe that what I make with Apple Black is a comic. It's a manga. It's a form of entertainment. It is what it is. It's all the same. That said, what you're watching in this video is me, creating a page for Apple Black. Apple Black publishes serialized in Saturday AM, and just making my pages. And I used most of the same techniques used in Japan. Again, the techniques you use also equate to style. So some people may use certain techniques, others may not. I may not use watercolors a lot, but I use Copics. But somebody else may use watercolors, or someone else may use both, or someone may use none. It's all style. That's the main difference. But everybody's style is different. Go to Cartoon Network, you watch a cartoon, the styles for the drawing style, the coloring styles, the feel of the comic, everything's different styles. If you watch a Guy Ritchie movie, if I watch a Guy Ritchie movie, I watch a David Fincher movie, or I watch a Christopher Nolan movie, I watch Martin Scorsese movie, I know the difference between all four. Like, I can just tell straight up. But yeah, it's all about style. It doesn't make the films different. It doesn't make, oh, just because this film has a certain look to it. It's just a different name in Japan. That's all. Manga. Different name, different style, same thing. This has been Whyt Manga. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me what you think. Please check out Apple Black. Also tell me what you think. Please purchase Apple Black. I'll leave a link to the trailer at the end of the video. So yeah, that's it. Don't forget to like this video because it really helps, and we can really stir the pot and let people give their input on what they think. And because this is one thing I was kind of tired of explaining. But yeah, subscribe to the channel. I will be having discussion videos like this every once in a while. I have tutorials, and I'll be having contests and updates on my comic, and more tutorial stuff, or sometimes just me fooling around sketching, doing some fun stuff. Please subscribe to the channel, and yeah, this is Whyt Manga. We good? We good.